Hi, Fems. I am Violette Ayala. I'm the founder of FemCity, and we finally were able to connect. Arnetta and I have been sweating trying to connect. StreamYard was not working. Then we went over to Zoom, and we went back to StreamYard, and then we can go live. So it has been a challenge, but we are here. We're super excited.
We survived it.
We survived it, exactly. So if you guys don't know this beautiful spirit soul next to me, Arnetta, she is one of my favorite humans. We've worked together. She launched FemCity Houston. She's a global member of ours, and she's also a friend. I haven't seen you, Arnetta, in a couple of years. I can't believe it, but I'm so excited to see your beautiful smile here with us today. So thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. I am. It's an honor, actually. So that you would even inquire and ask and check in. So thank you for that, too.
Oh, thank you. I just got chills you saying that. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, we are doing a special series this week. I woke up yesterday wanting to do more and using the platform that I've created to share what we do best, create a community and helping one another when we need it most. And so I just hopped on yesterday, just created it, and my beautiful friends have been so gracious and coming in as a guest and sharing perspective and their thoughts. I do want to share that our intention is to help others to become more informed, to become better listeners, to hear the perspective of others that may be different than ourselves. And we're going to do this in positivity, with no judgment, open hearts, tones of spirituality. So keep that in mind. If you're watching, this is not a place for anything else but that. And so, Arnetta, thank you so much. How are you doing?
You know, today I'm doing good, and it's only because I haven't really been glued to the television. You know, I've been busy today. I think I had a dentist appointment earlier, so I was just, I didn't listen to the news much. I didn't have my normal routine, which tends to somewhat what's that numbing thing? It kind of keeps you paralyzed sometimes when you start to hear a story or the remix to the story, and every day, every hour, it's like a new version of something, So how am I doing today? I'm doing well, but the last couple of weeks have been various emotions. You're angry, you're hurt, you're saddened, you're numb, you're in disbelief. What are some other words I thought? You're sad, and then there's hope. There's some rays of hope in and out of it. But I think the thing that's gotten me and a lot of my friends in the African-American community and beyond is that we've had several things happen in like the last 4 weeks. You know what I mean? Like back to back to back. And to me, it's like, okay, God's saying something like, okay, do I need to show you something else a little bit different? Do I need to present it to you another way? Because we've literally seen 2 videos of an African-American man being murdered visually, and then one almost potentially being, targeted in a park doing what people do. So there's a lot of dis-ease with me and a lot of my friends. That is what the normal has been the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Right. How are you processing it all? And by the way, I have chills all over. Yesterday, Candace shared something like I was telling her, like my heart has been heavy. Like I couldn't breathe on Sunday, and I just can't even imagine. You most likely have felt that through the last 4 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. For me, it was just Sunday it's been bouts of it, but I think for you, how are you processing it all? Like the last couple of weeks, how have you just been processing it all?
Well, it's kind of hard, really, because my process is weird because, I didn't give birth to sons who are African American, who are Black, but I'm my father. I have uncles. I'm a godmother. I'm Auntie Net to many boys, and so there's a lot of fear for them. The process piece is scary because. You cry every day. There's something like, it hit me, especially listening to George Floyd die in front of us, to hear him asking for his mother, and I'm a mom. It just did something for me. You know what I mean? So it's hard. It's hard. So my process is different, especially like I know when everyone was dealing with the coronavirus and we're all in the middle of the pandemic and no one really knew anyone, personally, some people didn't. But I'm like, yeah, a lot of my friends in California, they're experiencing that. So it was a different reaction to it. But one of my girlfriends lives in Santa Monica, and her son is he's sleeping with his shoes on because he thinks he needs to get up and run because they hear all this stuff that's going on out in the street. And it's a product of what's happening in our social constructs. It's just crazy right now. So my process goes up and down, and I have light during the day, but when I really get in on it, it's like I'm sucked in, you know what I mean? So it's an interesting dance, I say.
Yeah. So a lot of femmes in our community, the conversation has been, what can we do? Right. So I think, I don't know why for me this time around has been, and maybe it's a series of just having it be like you were saying, like God's telling us and all these, like, maybe this will make you act, maybe this, like there have been so many that, and I understand like part of the solution lies with me, and also those that are not directly impacted, it lies with us. Like there's a responsibility that we need to also stand up. I feel like that's more than ever. I feel like my friends personally are like, now what do we do? What do we do? Like enough is enough. What can we do as someone, as people are looking around and saying, I don't know what to do. Like even today, I know a lot of my friends were like, do I put the black square up? Do I not put the black square up? Do I use, like, they want to help. They just don't even know where to start. What advice would you give for them to just, so that we can be a part of the healing and also the solution with what we've got, you know?
So great question. I don't think there's one perfect answer for it, but just the fact that you're conscious and you're in this conscious place, because I think a lot of us have lived with being complicit, right? Mm-hmm. I've been complicit in many ways, because, there's certain things that I feel like I could do more of, but coming from another culture or, a lot of people used to think, oh, that's their problem. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I think it was always, or in some degrees, it was our problem because no one really saw it. So I think this took the veil off of it. And I think, like I told you more than one time, what can you do is talk to us, like share. Because I do have some friends who are white, and I know that they're like don't know how to approach the topic because it's a sensitive topic right now. But I've given that window, like you can always talk to me about this because they want to know, what can we do? Let's talk about it. Listen to us, because the fears are not unfounded. Of course, you see it, you know what I mean? But you hit it on the net earlier, self and others, right? So I think what I would recommend, or I would tell some of my other friends who are not directly privy to this type of harassment and treatment, is to just check yourself, see where you're complicit, see what your thing is. Like, how do you feel about it? Because I think that's what happens. Like you said, Sunday, you're just like, oh, like there's some things that just won't let you go. Check in with yourself, see where you're complicit, see where you're comfortable. A lot of people aren't comfortable going to these rallies, like, or doing certain things. Like you hear the stories now where the older women who grew up in the 70s or part of protests, they see a young African-American man, they want to hug him and tell him they're sorry, they don't know what to do. So there's like this hopelessness going on right now with a lot of people because you don't know what to do. But I think listening, showing love, and being a new advocate, you know what I mean? Like we need so many advocates because this affects everybody. I don't really know too many people who don't know someone who has a Black neighbor, a biracial child, I don't know too many people who can be so far removed from it because if you're a teacher, you're a business owner, your patrons, people are going to be diverse. You're going to have a diverse community. But I think the number one thing I've enjoyed lately is people asking questions like we just did, letting me or someone else be heard. I had a friend from high school. It's my 30-year reunion. We would have been 30 years. We're not doing anything, of course, now with the pandemic, but he's a white boy that we all had a good time growing up together. He Facebooked me a message together over the weekend, and he checked in on me, and he talked to me. And his father was a police officer in San Antonio, and he said my father was probably a part of this problem, but they had this uncomfortable conversation at the table. So a lot of times, like let's say, so he shared with me that his white family had this wonderful, fruitful 2-3 generations of a conversation that was uncomfortable for them to have, because you can't squash it. Your kids see it. You know what I mean? Like my daughter saw the video. I mean, she's an adult, but she saw the video before I could put a social
narrative.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it's just weird. So anyways, they're having these uncomfortable conversations in their household, just like we have to have an uncomfortable conversation with our Black boys and our sons and about what to do when you're stopped. You know what I mean? What not to do, how to act, that is an uncomfortable conversation for any parent to have. But imagine, those conversations weren't happening in those other households. It's no different than when the gentleman who was a nanny, or he was babysitting and also tutoring these white families' kids, and he got pulled over. A woman called the police on him because it didn't look right for her to have this Black man driving these two white children. And those kids felt the same fears that other kids do because they actually witnessed someone else experiencing that. You know what I mean? So it's so weird. It's weird. I'm like, right now, right behind my computer is the march they're having. They're having something in Houston right now, and it's being covered. And to see this, it's like an outcry. It's a lot of, it's just, I hate to say I'm glad. I'm glad that I see that an umbrella of this is coming off. You can't keep stuffing it and thinking it's going to go away. You know what I mean? So I think the first thing is being open to listening and talking, and showing I think humanity ran out the door with what we saw, but that we bring it back and that we just listen to one another. I think that, of our community of FemCity members, the majority of them have sons, and a great majority of our members are African American with these boys, and they're in college and their fathers, and it's a fear, it's scary. So I see talk to each other. I listened, former President Barack Obama said something like protest and politics is going to have to be a thing now. It's always been a thing, but it's like this thing has always been happening. It's just, I think, seeing it with our own eyes. People take a blind eye to things that they just hear about. And I think we've gotten so desensitized because it keeps happening, but nothing is really changing. So I think that as a community, we just need to start talking. I like community policing. I think that's great because every police officer in the world is not a bad cop. But I think that if they can join hands with us and talk, I think that'd be great. But I think in this time, I think we need to focus on self because I think a lot of folks have been triggered in many ways. Last month was Mental Health Awareness Month. And we were already dealing with a pandemic and being stuck in the house. A lot of us losing income. And so there's a lot of hopelessness going on right now. But I really feel like love. And I think that people have just like such a huge disconnect with that thing,
Candace mentioned yesterday also, like sending love notes. I'm going to call them love notes, but like sending love notes to those people that are in your life. Like I started crying when you shared that story about your high school friend.
Yeah.
Because even just sending that little note and saying, I'm thinking about you and I am always here and I've got your back. I think what hit me this week was, I shared it yesterday. I didn't go to the protest because I am really scared of white supremacists, like just growing up, like hearing a story or two from my dad. I don't know. So I felt so much respect for the women that showed up and the people that showed up because I didn't have the bravery for that. So it brought it to another level. And that's what I was thinking about the solutions, like the patterns, and like what can I do? Because I couldn't do that, but what can I do? If you're watching this and you're trying to figure out what can you do, if you can march, if you can't protest, if you're pregnant, if you have babies at home, like I understand, like not all of us can take that modality of showing that we're advocates for others, but you're saying listening, reaching out, just hearing the perspective, of the stories that you hear that maybe someone doesn't realize. Like that's the reality of how you guys have been,
Yeah. Well, the thing that I really loved about when my friend Facebooked me, I was in my spirit of I was feeling it. I probably just got through watching the show, but it took me back to when I got stopped by a police officer and how shook I was. And I actually shared that story with them because that's what came up to me. It's like, I have a fear too. You know what I mean? Like there's somebody, has been stopped, It's had to deal with this, you know, they've been questioned, you know, erroneously questioned for, you know what I mean, just suspicious. That's the thing about this country, and really not just this country, but there's just a natural innate fear sometimes of a Black person, you know what I mean? And you feel it, you know what I mean? And so I think that there's no one solution for it, but I will say this. I think that people need to, I think it's like a self check-in with folks, because we all, there's some prejudice in all of us in some way, shape, or form. You know what I'm saying? But do a self check first. Figure out, because if you can't control and understand what your triggers are and know what really gets you messed up, it's going to be hard for you to really pour into someone else. And you know what I mean? Like the way that you really want to. I'm big on advocacy. I was like you. My daughter wanted to go to the protest, and I didn't want her to go to the protest because I'm a mommy, right? And I said, you need security, and I can't go. You know, like I would have to be there. You know, I want her to see that. I want her to be a part of it, because this is their time. This is, you know, this next generation is going to have to be the one to really push it. You know what I mean? But it's all about communicating, because, you know, when my first college roommate was from a small town in Texas called Jordanton, Texas, and she had never seen a Black person that was not the wino in the neighborhood, in the community. You know what I'm saying? Like I broke all kind of social, you know, whatever thought, you know, yeah. I broke it. So because a lot of people didn't grow up with them, and it's just, you just never know. You just stuck. So I really encourage, I try to write it down, because I'm a big proponent of community policing. I know my neighborhood officer, he speaks, I got his cell phone number if I have an urgency, you know what I mean? Not everybody has that thing, but that was me trying to get past it, because I do have issues with that, you know? Really, I think everyone should start to vote. I know I think every family has at least 5 people that they know who either isn't registered, don't believe in it, don't want to, you know what I mean? But don't just vote at the top, because the top, as you see, is not always great. We got to do these local, you know, elections. We have to be more, and then, I mean, where you feel helpless and don't want to go do all the big stuff, you can also, like you said, the love notes, passing out water, you know, just being some kind of on the outskirts, you know, trying to support, you know, church advocacy. A lot of churches are really doing a lot for some of these protesters, and really just listening. I think if you are from another culture or race and you feel really like a lot of empathy right now and helpless, but you want to do some outreach, you can always volunteer. You can always just be an ear. I felt heard when my friend reached out to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. I really did. And I know, and he said he felt helpless, but he wanted me to know that I was loved, that I was cared for, and that, you know, they had a conversation. It made me feel good that his family had a conversation. And I think that hard conversation needs to happen in other homes, because we're seeing it.
Right. You know? That's beautiful. Yeah, I realized this weekend that I'm blessed that I have beautiful friends that I'm just blessed. My friends are diverse, and I feel like the luckiest person in the world, but I also realize that not everybody has the ability to have these conversations where they can reach out and say, what can I do? Like I realized this weekend that we need to have this conversation for those that cannot have it. Mm-hmm. At least encourage or inspire them to start to reach out or be part of a bigger community, you know, that it's yeah, this has been beautiful. And I know it's static on your end, so I'm trying not to talk.
No, you know what got me, was so beautiful to me, because of the young lady that was murdered in Tennessee, how they showed on the news the other day. It made me get really teary-eyed. This is advocacy at its biggest. It's where the protesters were there, and a line of mostly white women, and there were some men, they created a barrier between the protesters and the police officers, as if to protect them. Right. So that they could do this peaceful protest, because it was, you know, it was an injustice that was done to that woman, you know what I mean? And so that is advocacy, you know what I mean? Because we can't change We cannot change racism in the world or in the United States if it's just Black people doing it, if it's just Asian Americans, if it's just, Hispanic, Latino. It has to be everybody.
It has to be everybody.
You know what I mean? And I've been really feeling really gratitude for the diversity that I see. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the thing. I think we can't do it alone. We all have to go in and do it together. But it's going to start with us listening to each other and allowing each other to be heard. Yeah. Because unfortunately, this may not be the last time this happens. And I hope it isn't. But,
Right. Yeah, I use the analogy a lot of times when talking about race. When you think about women being viewed equal, if you just take that as a minority group of just women being viewed as equal, that fight has to also come from men who also stand up and say women are equal. And so if we use that concept, the same thing would happen with all minorities. So you need us to be a part of not only the conversation, but the advocacy, whether it's silent. I mean, even I remember the Girl Scouts, we did this bullying workshop because we had a bullying situation. And they say that when you're being bullied, if you don't want to be hey, you leave Arnetta alone. If you don't want to be that vocal, just standing next to Arnetta when the bully is there, just that shifts the energy, and the power then also becomes more neutralized. And so even when we're doing the Girl Scout bullying workshop, that's such a powerful thing for even this moment here, is that you need others to stand by you. And maybe it doesn't have to be, if you don't feel comfortable in sharing or verbally, or just standing and holding someone's hand, whether it's spiritually or energetically or physically holding their hand, it makes such a huge difference, because none of us can do any of these changes alone. That is whatever minority group or whatever religion, we just can't. It has to be together.
I agree. I'm praying for a healing for everybody. This has been a very tough. This one has been really tough, because, you sit there and you hear this, I can't breathe. And I'm thinking, did he not remember? I mean, were they so not present in their body that they didn't catch that this was something that happened years ago and that could have a bad outcome? So, it's just, the process has not been easy, like I said, but I think that the solutions we're going to have, we got to do it as a community. It can't just be one. It has to be all of us, but it's going to start with some uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
And then some advocacy, that, some action behind those conversations. You know what I mean? Right. Because I think we have the conversations sometimes, but we don't follow through.
Right. And that's the other thing. Yeah, I see people posting and I see people posting and it's a passive post, right? I guess this is safe to post, right? I'm just posting. Yeah. But you're saying, it needs to follow through. And I'm happy when I'm getting space. Let's go a little deeper. What more?
Yeah.
Continue so that we start seeing the changes. I want to start seeing the changes and more people in it,
Well, it's going to take more of us to be uncomfortable. You know how change happens. Nobody's feeling good right now,
right?
Which is a good thing in the sense that if we're going to feel better, we have to do better, But I will share because there's self and then there's others. So we talked a lot about the others as far as how to be more community involved and, but I'm going to go back to what May was, Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm sure a lot of us have a little PTSD after watching what we've seen. And even if you've had an experience yourself, that I really am a proponent of that exercise, that mindfulness and meditation, counseling. I'm a huge advocate of that. A lot of us have been stuck. This pandemic really messed up a lot of people's normal ways of coping, healthy ways of coping. And I think this is really compounded with the pandemic started, right? And then also I believe in prayer and a belief that's beyond, you know what I mean? Because sometimes what we see is not where you know what I mean? Gotta get out of there. So, but I think that we need to really do some self-care right now too. That's why I told you I didn't watch the news, and even now, look over there, you see all those protesters and "Please don't kill us" signs, and you're like, oh, you know, and it's hard and scary because a lot of Black children wake up afraid they're going to die, you know, and you don't want that. They're babies. A lot of them are babies. You know what I mean? So anyways, it's an enduring situation, but I think it'll start, I think communicating and sharing, you know, and given, it's not, this ain't a Black thing. This is a true bad situation that's happened. It can happen to anybody.
Right.
Anybody. So I think talking, and being a beacon of light for someone who's in a dark space, because, you know, people need to talk right now.
Right. I love you so much. You know that. I just love you so much. Everything that you've shared is just, I cried a little. I'm trying not to cry because I don't want it to be like the Violette crying hour.
Okay. No, but this is what needs to happen though. You know what I mean? Like weeping is okay. We're supposed to do that. You know? I mean, you have to get it out. It's toxic to keep that stuff in your body. You know what I'm saying? But it's not easy and it's not going to go away. But we have to, you know, figure out where we're comfortable. But I told you, we've all had a little bit of complicity in our lives, right? Where we'll start to do it, we'll start to try to do some change things, and then we'll stop. And then this big thing happened. I tell you, I kept thinking, God, what are you doing? Like, you know, something else. You know, like the last 3 things that happened, I'm like, oof. Yeah. But something does need to really organically happen from all of this stuff because people's lives have been just shook.
Yeah, and it needs to be a bigger, like you were saying before. It has to be that everyone comes together to have the grace, to have the conversation, to also every single person watching this can make that change, and then those people then can change just like FemCity, we launched 1 and 2 communities. I mean, you know, that can just start with one person making a change and inspires other people to make the change, and it sends other people. So if we have those conversations, if we become advocates for people that need us most, it really does make a difference. But just follow through and like you said, listen. If you don't know what they're going through, someone that a friend or former colleague or whatever, like reach out. Wow, are you okay? Like, have that space for them because people just want to also be heard and say you're valuable. What you're sharing is important. You know, you're a piece of my life. I just want to make sure you're okay. What can I do?
Can I just share with you though, everything you just said, all I could think of was you, because it takes a good leader to be able to manifest and create that kind of action. Mm-hmm. You know, you built a FemCity model with love, with direction, with some strategy, with some, you know, bumps and things, but you kept going. But that's leadership. And all of this social change that needs to happen in our communities needs to have good leaders. Mm. You know? So I consider you a good leader. You did this, and I'm so happy and proud and thankful that you've given this platform for us to talk and share this. But everything you just mentioned before, the thing that came to my mind was leadership really supports all of that.
Yeah.
All this social injustice and all this stuff that's going on. I mean, it's been around forever, but how it is molded and how it evolves is based on how it is treated.
Right.
You know? And so, yeah, right now you're going to have our babies and these kids out here protesting and you know, going against the social injustice. And this needs to happen. Unfortunately, I don't want to even talk about the bad effects of what can happen with this. But right now I'm with the protests, and the politics are going to eventually have to come together. And people who are ready for this to move forward in a positive way are going to have to create their own leadership. Like, you got to be the change you want to see, right? Like, until we get the people up here to do what they need to do, then we're going to have to do it ourselves, you know, and it's going to start in our homes with those conversations that aren't fun, you know? Yeah.
I got chills all over. Just anyway, Sharonda says, I love you both. Sharonda, I love you. I love Sharonda.
Hi, everybody.
And Dayla, I love you. So Dayla is our San Antonio. She was our San Antonio FemCity leader. Yes. Our FemCity Miami leader. Just love you both so much. Anything else you want to say? Arnetta, before we wrap up?
Well, what did I have? I had a note here. I just want everyone to know that with all of my sadness and anxiety and all this stuff, I still have a lot of hope in my heart, right? And but I know that it's hope is hope. It's just a word unless we put some stuff. We need action. You know what I mean? Where there's an inaction in your spirit about something, you got to put some action in it and make it move. And so right now it's about just trying to create something that makes you feel comfortable in the change process. But yeah, be the change you want to see. So if you don't see someone else doing what you think is going to make it happen, make it happen.
Right. Oh my gosh. Anyway, thank you so much, Arnetta. I know you squeezed this in. I asked Arnetta yesterday, literally, for this. So
I'm excited to do it.
I was like, we have to do this really fast. I wanted to have the conversations now. I did not want to wait. It's not to say that this is the end of it. We have tomorrow and we have Thursday, and I will continue to have these conversations if it needs to be had. I promise you that I will be the advocate, and I will do what I can with what I've got, and I will inspire others to do the same. That is my promise to you.
Violet, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, this is beautiful. As soon as you sent that message to me yesterday, I was like, yes, whatever you want to do. And I think that you keep doing that because, I mean, it's genuine, it's authentic, it comes from your heart. And honestly, we are all sitting here with this stuff in us that we need to get out. So thank you for that.
And even like,
and I hope I spoke to somebody else. Yes,
absolutely. And I think what's also important is that sometimes you have the ability of sharing, you're verbalizing some of the pain. And I think sometimes some people are watching and saying, yes, I feel like that. I just didn't know I was feeling that. You know what I mean? So I think it's important for us to listen on that perspective too. Like, oh yeah, he said it clearly. I couldn't figure out how to say it. So I thank you for your words and expressing yourself with such grace and beauty, faith, spirituality, like
thank you, baby.
Biggest fans who know that. So
thank you. I look forward to we can all hug each other again and see each other.
Oh, I can't wait. Wait. Anyway, love you. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Bye, guys. Bye.